Hi guys, I wanted to talk about some math with you. We're starting a new lesson this week. It's lesson 24. It's comparing fractions, which ties very nicely into our literacy lesson on comparing and contrasting. So now that you have hopefully a better idea of fractions and what they look like and how to build them and write them and model them, we're now going to compare two different ones. So I am on page number 523. It says lesson 24, explore comparing fractions. The page before is a letter to your parents, and since you're home, you don't have to give it to your parents. Hopefully, if you can, you can rip it out. Remember, this is your helping hand. It's going to hold the book tight, and then you rip. You need to hold it down tight as you go, so that way it doesn't come out in pieces. All right, so I'm at page 523 in your math books. Problem number 1, it says model it. So what we're going to do is follow along here. The first problem, it has two models for you, and a model, again, is just a fancy word. It's a synonym for a drawing. This time they put it in squares. But you've also seen bars. I like to call them candy bars, circles. There you could have triangles, any kind of shape that they can use to break it apart, they will. So you have these two, and they want you to fill in 1 of the 4 and 2 of the 4 to see which one is greater than. So all you're going to do to start is to shade in 1 of the 4 and then 2 of the 4. So remember, the denominator is how many pieces there are in this whole. This whole square got broken into 4 pieces, so the denominator is 4. You're going to color in 1 of those. Here, same thing, you're going to color in 2 of those squares. I need you to shade in or color 1 of the squares that is touching one that you already colored in. You don't want to color in over here in this one that it's not touching the diagonal, because then you won't get a good idea of which fraction is larger. It might be harder to follow along and understand the concept if they aren't touching. So go side by side. Now that I've done that, that is letter A, now I'm going to compare them and see which one is greater than the other. I can look and see at my model that 2 is greater than 1. So here I have my numerator is increasing, my amount is going to grow. So I wrote 2/4 is greater than 1/4. This is when you're doing inequalities, and you'll do inequalities through high school, college, grad school. You're going to have these are called inequalities. It means they're not equal. The equal sign means equal or equivalent, but these are inequalities. So this is when you put your alligator hands up and you say, the alligator eats the biggest number. So the alligator is always going to trump the larger number. The alligator eats the biggest number. You guys may be laughing, but it helps your brain so you remember. So that's why I wrote 2/4 is greater than 1/4. When you have it in a sentence like that, like I have here, it reads as greater than, because we read from left to right. So when it's facing this way in a sentence, it means it's greater than. I could put in the less than into another sentence if I wrote 1/4. I'll do that. So for an example for that, it would be 1/4 is less than 2/4. Both are correct. It's just kind of how we talk about same players, different parts. So these are the inequalities that you're going to use and that you're going to talk about. So I just wanted to go over that. For number 2, it talks about using the number line. I know a lot of you are scared or intimidated of the number line. It's too hard. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. Just like reading, just like math, just like, using your words when you need something. It is going to get easier. I would like for you to do both models. Model is a fancy word for a drawing. I'd like you to use both models when you're working on fractions if it is particularly hard for you. You're going to get better every time. So I do have some feedback. People wanted fractions in the number line video, so I'll be working on that too. But down here I have the number line for problem number 2. And what I did is I have my whole unit. So I have 0 all the way to 1. pretend I have one candy bar. I broke it into 4 pieces. There's 1 piece, 2, 3, and 4. So my denominator is 4. If I haven't eaten anything, I haven't gone anywhere, I have 0 of those 4 pieces. If I end up eating all 4 pieces, I've eaten all 4 of the 4. When you have this 1, it's always, the numerator and the denominator are always going to be matching. So 1 could be broken into fifths and it would be 5 fifths, 6 sixths, 7 sevenths, things like that, okay? So then you're gonna start out at 0 and you're gonna jump to 1/4, which I did. I don't know if you can see that. 1/4 is this big. In your book, they wrote these with red and blue so you can see. Then you jump from 0 to 2/4, and you can see this is a bigger jump. 2/4 is greater. Then for letter B on, actually let me back up. 2A, it says which fraction is greater. Both of these, 1B and 2A, are looking for fractions. You can't just say 2. You can't just say, oh, the 2 is bigger. Well, it's not 2. It's 2/4. So you need to write this whole fraction, 2/4 for 2A. Letter B says, when comparing 2 fractions with the same denominator, how can the numerators help you to determine which fraction is greater? Well, I kind of answered that earlier, because if you have 1 piece, it's smaller. 2, there's 1 more. So as your numerator goes up, the amount is going to get greater. 6/8, you have more of those 8s than if you had 1/8. You have 5 more, so it's just growing as that numerator grows. Number 3, down here, this reminds me of area and how some of you guys got tricked when we did area and the boxes were different. So it says, compare the shaded parts of the models below. Can you use these models to show that the sentence in problem 1B is true? Well, what was 1B? 1B was saying which one is greater than, and we said 2/4 is greater than 1/4. So can we do that down here? Can we use that? Can we use these models? If you said no, you're right. You can't, because they're not the same size. Fractions need to be the same size. You need to be comparing a green apple versus a green apple. You can't be comparing a green apple versus a banana. It's way different. There's no comparing the two. So you just can't. All right, I'm moving on to page 524 on the back. This one, it talks about more parts, smaller parts, shading them and comparing them. So I just wanted to talk to you guys about this. I know I had mentioned it in class, but I do think it's important to remind you again that if I have, say, a pizza and it's just Mr. Flame and I broke it into 2 pieces. So my numerator is 2. Can you see that? 2. My numerator is 2. This is one of the halves, and this is one of the halves. This is Miss Flame's half. That's Mr. Flame's half. But let's say I had some kids with me, and they wanted to eat too. It's yummy pizza. So I need to cut it into more pieces. And as I cut this into more pieces, the pieces get smaller. So I'll show you what this looks like so you can see. So here's my pizza again that I have. I cut it in half and the piece gets smaller. Every time they get smaller. Here's 4ths and 8ths. So I have 8 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side. Plus I know there's 4 on that side since it's symmetrical. So my numerator is 8. Numerator is how many pieces they are. So as the number of parts increases, which is your denominator, this is the number of parts, the size of the parts decreases. So if you notice, my halves are way bigger than my 8s because I have a lot more people that are getting a piece of the pie, literally. So I just wanted to go over that with you as you compare and contrast that whole part with parts and things like that. I want you to know as you cut those pieces up, the denominator is going to go up and the size of the pieces is going to go down. So I'm going to erase and talk to you about number 5. What you need to do for number 5 is you need to count first off how many pieces there are in those models. Oh, so you're gonna look at the, I don't want to erase that in case you guys need that still, but you're gonna look at the number of parts first, because that's gonna determine what your fraction is. So this was number 5, is that right? Yeah. So I'm gonna draw exactly what the book has, so I follow along with you guys. Again, my drawings are not perfect, but I can see on figure C, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna count again, just to make sure I'm right. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 6. So if there's 6 pieces, that means I need to draw 5 lines. It's always gonna be 1 less than the number of pieces. So keep that in mind. I like using your fingers because if you have 5 pieces, you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 lines separating the 5 fingers that we have. So this one is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the next one is fourths. Okay. All right, so then it says, label each part of each model at the right with the unit fraction it represents. So all we are going to do is write, this is 1, 6, 1, 6. And I keep going. This is 1 of the 4. 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 Then it says shade 3 parts of each model. What fraction does each model show? So then you're going to color in these 3. 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to write that as 3 out of those 6 pieces are shaded. And you shade 3 of each one. So I'm going to shade this one, and this one, and this one. 1, 2, 3. 3 of the 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. So the denominator is the number of parts, and this is the parts of the whole. And whole is spelled with a W. It means the whole. So then you're just going to say which one is greater. And then at the bottom, it says, explain how you can compare unit fractions such as 1/3 and 1/8. You're welcome to do the number line to compare those. You're welcome to do a circle, a bar, whatever helps you. This green page, you can fill in this web, and then it says shade the models to show the fractions 2, 6, and 4, 6. Then complete the sentence to compare the fractions. So you're going to shade in 2, shade in 4. Which one is less than? So make sure you're reading all of the words because they're going to try to trick you. All right, which model at the right has fewer parts? Which model has larger parts? This is everything we just did, but with different numbers, different pieces. So don't let it intimidate you. If you have any questions, you know what to do.